Okay, so one more thing to add on about the if else statement is you can also use things like and or. So if I want to say if the duck age is, let's say, equal to 196 and the duck name is equals John, then say the duck John is 196 years old. And now when I print it, is he not? Oh yeah, he's not 196. My bad. He's 154 now. He's an old duck. Hang on. There we go. Yeah. So now it says the duck John is 154 years old. Now if I changed either of these to being, so let's say Bob, now the duck is not named Bob. So now it won't check for this. It won't, since this statement was wrong, since this condition was not met, it won't run this. Both statements have to be correct for this to work. And if you want, good practice is to use parentheses between your conditions like that. And of course, it'll still do the same. Now, alternatively, you can do or. So if the duck is 154 or his name is John, you could say the duck is John or he is the same age as John, which is 154. So even though his name is Bob, he's the same age as John and he's 154. And now we can change the age to being older, right? And since this is not true, but this is, we still have the duck is John, or he is the same age, but we know that the duck is John, so we could just say that. So that's and or. And one more thing to keep in mind, another type of operator is, as I showed, not equals, but alternatively, you can use um, the word not. You could say if not this. So if the duck, so it'll do whatever the opposite is of this condition. So usually if I'm saying if the duck is 154, it'll do the opposite. Let's say the duck isn't 54. If the duck isn't 54, then print this. The duck isn't 50, right? And since we know that the duck is not 154 because 29 times 7 is 203, it'll say the duck isn't 154 years old. And now if I change it to not equals, now I'll check if this statement is true. So now duck is 154. And I think that happened when we used 28, right? Hang on. No, let's just change it to 196. There we go. So it'll do the opposite. Usually it would check if the duck is not 196, it'll do whatever's in here. But since we put a not in here, it'll do whatever the opposite is. Now, something to keep in mind is when it evaluates this, it actually says it just returns a true or false value. So actually what's happening is it's saying if true, do this. If false, don't do this. So since this statement is true or is false, it will not do this. But since I added a not, it changes false to being true. And now if true, it'll do this because it's true. So the same thing would happen if I did if true, it will always print the duck is 196, even if I change the age to being like 2 years old. Or if I do like 14 years old, it'll still say the duck is 196. So no matter what I do, at the end of the day, the way this is understood by the computer is it just checks. is this statement true or is this statement false? If this statement is true, run it. If it's false, don't run it. That's how it understands. So if I did false, it will never ever run that line of code no matter what happens because I directly put false. So yeah, that's all I want to add for the control um, flow stuff. Yeah, if else statements.